Today's video is all about the Christmas candy. I love making sweet treats to share with my friends and family. You put your time and love into it, and it's gifts like these that mean the most to people. Hey y'all, I'm Valerie, and welcome to my kitchen. In today's video, I'm sharing 4 easy and delicious Christmas candy recipes that everyone's gonna love. Okay y'all, let's get started. This is something that my Mema used to make, and she calls it Christmas candy. You'll need a large bowl, and I'm telling you, you'll need a bigger one than I have right here. I'm adding in 2 sticks of softened butter, along with 1 can of sweetened condensed milk. And make sure you get it all. That stuff is delicious. I'm also adding 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And I'm going to mix this before I add in the rest of the ingredients. I'm just using my mixer to mix it until it's well combined. Do y'all have any Christmas candy recipes that you've passed down over the years? For me, it's this one, which my aunt makes them now. Oh, and also the peanut butter balls. My Mema always makes them a little different than your average peanut butter ball. So to that butter and sweetened condensed milk mixture, I'm adding a 32-ounce bag of powdered sugar. The recipe called for 2 boxes of powdered sugar, and I had to look that up, and that's equal to a 32-ounce bag. Oh, and you could very easily cut this recipe in half if you needed to. It does make a lot, and I mean a lot. And when you're mixing the powdered sugar, try to add it a little at a time. That way you don't make a huge mess. When you get all that mixed together, you can go ahead and add in a 14-ounce bag of sweetened coconut. But if you don't like things quite as sweet, I'm sure unsweetened coconut would be fine. I have a total of 1.5 pounds of candied red and green cherries here. These are not the same thing as maraschino cherries, and I did try to cut mine into smaller pieces. And y'all can see my bowl is getting full already. So now I'm trying to fit this 1.5 pounds of chopped pecans in here. My aunt did not tell me that this recipe made this much. I was making this for her, by the way. I wanted to go ahead and get it made where it could chill in the refrigerator overnight. And she's gonna come help me dip it all in chocolate. Okay, so at this point, I had no idea how in the world I was gonna get this mixed together. So I stopped what I was doing and I went and called my aunt. She told me that she mixes hers in a stock pot, and I have one of them, and it is huge. So I had to pull mine out too. I told you it was big, and I have no clue as to how big this is. I guess I'm gonna have to try to figure it out. This stuff is very sticky, so prepare to get your hands messy. And right now I'm just moving everything from the bowl to that big pot there. And by the way, if you're enjoying this video, I would really appreciate it if you would give me a thumbs up. It really does help out my channel, and it lets me know that you want to see more videos like this. This is so much better. I could really get in there and mix everything together. I told you it makes a mess, can you tell? Now I'm dumping everything back in that first bowl there. That way I can make it fit in the refrigerator. Look at that. Isn't that a pretty little Christmas mixture there? I'm covering this with some plastic wrap, and the recipe says to chill it for at least 2 hours. But it does much better if you chill it overnight. It holds together better, and it's much easier to dip in the chocolate. Besides, I'm saving this for the next day because, well, we call that candy dipping day. I did not want to dip all this all by myself, so I have 2 aunts and my mom to come and help me out. I'm going to go ahead and get my chocolate ready. In a double boiler, I added 1.5 bars of the Parifin Wax and 4 of the 12-ounce bags of semi-sweet chocolate chips. This makes a lot of chocolate, but we needed it all to dip all that candy. And I guess maybe you could do it in the microwave, but I think a double boiler is a whole lot better. That chocolate won't burn as easy if you do it in the double boiler. It was hard to stir at first, but the more that chocolate melted, the easier it got. And if you don't have a double boiler, something that I've done before that also helps, if you'll take a pot with a tiny bit of water in the bottom of it, set a metal bowl on top of that. Just make sure the bottom of that bowl doesn't touch the bottom of that pot. Let that water kind of simmer on low and you've got yourself a double boiler. Okay, that chocolate was almost completely melted. So I went ahead and got that candy mixture out of the refrigerator. And we're not going to roll these into balls. We're just going to take tiny little chunks of that mixture. They don't have to be the same size, and they definitely don't have to be perfect. I think it looks pretty too when they're a little more on the rustic side. Now back over to that chocolate. You're just going to take a little hunk of that candy and drop it in. And there's really not a right or a wrong way to do this. Just do it the best way you can. I just drop it in and pick it up with my fork and kind of tap the excess chocolate off. And then you'll want to lay these on some wax paper. And if you have any tips or tricks for dipping things in chocolate, please share in the comments below. I could use some help myself. And y'all, there were so many of these things to dip. I wish I would have counted them all. And I am so glad that I had help. If I had to do it by myself, I would have been here all day. And I didn't have time for that. I still have peanut butter balls to make. And see how pretty they look? That paraffin wax really thins out that chocolate where they're easier to dip, and it also gives them a little shine. These are just perfect to give out as gifts or to enjoy for yourself. These are so good. And as long as you have a big enough pot to mix them in and some help to dip them all, they're really pretty easy to make. And I just had to cut one open to show you what the inside looks like. And if you wanted, you could also dip these in white chocolate. I'm sure that would be delicious too. I'll have this recipe typed out in the description box below. And also don't forget, it's very easy to cut in half. And the only thing I know to call these is old-fashioned peanut butter balls. My Mema and my grandma make them this way. And they're not just the basic peanut butter balls. And I'm using my mixer for this. You can do this by hand, but I figured I'd make it a little bit easier on myself. So in the bowl of my stand mixer, I added 1/2 cup of peanut butter. I use the creamy kind, along with 2 sticks of melted butter and 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. And you're just going to mix this until it's well combined. And we have just a few more things to add. I couldn't find graham cracker crumbs at the grocery store, so I'm just using a box of graham crackers. I just put mine in the food processor and blended them into fine crumbs. You'll just need 2 cups worth. I'm also adding 1 cup of the sweetened shredded coconut and 1 cup of chopped pecans. We're going to give this a really good mix before we add in the powdered sugar. It's just much easier to mix that way instead of trying to mix it all together at one time. And you'll need 1 box or 1 pound of powdered sugar. Go ahead and add that in and mix it until you don't see any more of that dry powdered sugar left. Oh, and if you love easy recipes, I have a lot of dinner ideas and of course the desserts on my channel. So if that's something you're interested in, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. That way you get notified of all my future videos. And you'll want to be able to form a ball with that mixture. If you can't and it completely falls apart, just add in a little more peanut butter. Add it just a little at a time until that dough sticks together. And we do something like a tablespoon and a half size ball. And as you can see, it does not have to be perfect. We're about to cover them in chocolate. And yes, we still had some of that chocolate left over from the Christmas candy, so we just kept going with that. And I'll show you in a minute here the amount of chocolate you'll need if you just make the peanut butter balls. And I do the same for these as I did for the Christmas candy. I dip them in the chocolate and then scoop them up with my fork and then tap off the excess. I know some people use a toothpick to do this, but I have never had luck with that. They either won't stay on the toothpick or they get stuck on the toothpick and I can't get them off, so I just stick with the fork. If y'all only knew how much fun we had dipping all this candy that day. I think it's going to have to be a new family tradition. And like I was saying, we used some of that leftover chocolate from the Christmas candy. We did have to mix up a little more, but if you're just making the peanut butter balls, you'll need half of one of these blocks of Parifin Wax and 2 of the 12-ounce packages of semi-sweet chocolate chips. We had some of that chocolate left over and I was not going to let it go to waste. We dipped some Oreos and I had a bag of these pretzel rods in my pantry. So I covered some of them in chocolate too. These are quick and easy to make and they turn out super cute. I've also seen people pour the chocolate in a tall, slim glass and dip them in that way. But I already had the chocolate in this double boiler here, so I just kind of tried to drizzle it over the pretzel. And you'll do the same with them, just lay them on some wax paper. And before they have a chance to dry or set up, we're going to add a little bit of decoration. And y'all, you could do this for any holiday really. You can change up the colors, change up the sprinkles. You could dip the pretzels in white chocolate. Just use your imagination and be creative. And I really wish I would have added sprinkles to the Oreos. I'm just sitting here looking at the huge mess we made with that chocolate. But we did have so much fun. And speaking of chocolate, I just did a video on chocolate sop, or you might know it as chocolate gravy. It would be a perfect little sweet breakfast treat to have for Christmas morning. So I'll be sure to link that video in the description box below, just in case you missed it. Look at all these. They turned out perfect. And besides being fun to make, it's so much fun to share with your friends and family. And trust me, you will have a lot to share. And of course, I wasn't going to let you miss out on seeing the inside of these here. And I'm telling you, if you haven't already tried them this way, please do. They are delicious. I have to confess, I have never made the Christmas crack. I know, what have I been waiting on? I've got a 9x13 pan and I lined mine with parchment paper. And now I'm just covering the entire bottom of that pan with graham crackers. And you just fit them in there the best way you can. If you have to break some, go ahead and break them. We're going to cover them up with more delicious stuff anyways. And you do want to go ahead and have this ready, because once we make up that toffee mixture, we're going to pour it immediately over these graham crackers. Over to the stovetop in a medium-sized saucepan, you're going to add in 2 sticks of butter. I'll let that melt down. And then you're going to add in 1 cup of brown sugar. And make sure you do that very slowly. That way you don't splash that butter all over the place. I just tried to break up that brown sugar just a little bit. That way it would go ahead and start to dissolve. Then you're going to add in 1 cup of chopped pecans. And if you don't like pecans, I'm sure walnuts would work fine too, or you could leave them out altogether, but we love pecans. You're going to bring this mixture to a boil and boil it for about 5 minutes while stirring constantly. You can tell mine started to thicken up really good. It was done, so I headed back over to the counter to pour it over those graham crackers. And after you get it in there, just do your best to spread it out into a thin layer. Just try to make sure you cover all those graham crackers. Now this goes into the oven to bake at 350 for about 8 minutes. And here it is out of the oven, and you'll want to do this pretty quickly as soon as it comes out of the oven. You'll need 5 of those regular size Hershey bars. They do come in a pack of 6 though, so I ended up using all 6. Now you're going to cover it tightly with foil and let it sit out on the counter for about 7 minutes, and that way that chocolate has a chance to melt. I forgot that pan hadn't been out of the oven for long, so it was still very hot, so I had to grab those oven mitts. And I made sure to cover it extra tightly, that way that heat could build up in there and it could melt all those Hershey bars. And after about 7 minutes, or it might have been a little closer to 10 minutes, you can go ahead and remove that foil, and we're gonna spread out that chocolate. And I couldn't just leave them like this. I had to add on sprinkles. I've got to say, this is one of the best things that I've made here lately. Or I'll say, this is one of my new favorites. You're going to let this cool completely, and then you can break it into bars. And I did want to mention, this recipe is from Julia Pacheco, and it came out of her brand new cookbook. I'm so happy for her, and she has done amazing. She was actually one of the biggest inspirations to me on starting a channel of my own. I've made many of her recipes, and there hasn't been one yet that we do not absolutely love. And everything in this cookbook is easy to make, and I love her stuff because it's usually things that I already have on hand. And I love that this cookbook is spiral bound, that way you don't have to fight to keep the pages open. Her cookbook is available now. In case you're interested, I'll leave that link in the description box below. I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed. And this recipe right here was absolutely amazing. And there's no way that I'm just going to make this for Christmas. I will definitely find an excuse to make it all year long. And if you haven't tried it with the graham crackers, oh my goodness, I'm a graham cracker fan all the way. And these were right up my alley. This grasshopper fudge was so easy and fun to make. I'm starting out in a large bowl. I added in 2 of the 12-ounce packages of white chocolate chips. Now I'm adding in 1 can of the sweetened condensed milk. By the way, I just made a maple pecan fudge, and it'll be in an upcoming video, so be on the lookout for that. Trust me, you don't want to miss that one. I'm also going to add in 1/4 cup of heavy cream. Now we're going to put this in the microwave and microwave it in 30-second intervals, stirring in between until it's completely melted. And I gave it a really good stir just to make sure everything was melted. Now I'm adding in 1½ teaspoons of peppermint extract. And this is optional, but I already had gel food coloring on hand, so I went ahead and added in some green. And it really doesn't take much, so I usually add some in and then stir it, and then if I need to, I can always add more. I had to make sure I got every little drop of that green here, and I actually had to scrape the bottom of that jar, so it's time for another one. Now you're just going to mix this until all of it's green. And here's the fun part. I have 30 Oreos here. I chopped them into big chunks. Now I'm adding them right on into that fudge. Now you're just going to fold these in until they're well incorporated, and you're going to watch me break my spatula. Yep, there it goes. I figured I'd give y'all a little behind the scenes. And look, last week I broke a cookie scoop. So now I'm switching to a metal spoon because I'm pretty sure that is not going to let me down. I'm using a 9 by 9 inch pan for this, and I do have it lined with parchment paper. That way it's easy to lift out after that fudge has set. Now I'm just pouring in that mixture. And once you get it all in there, go ahead and work pretty quickly and spread it out into an even layer. I just tried to make sure I got it all the way to those corners there. I forgot to mention, I did reserve a few of those Oreos from earlier. That way I would have some left to sprinkle on the top. And of course, I had to add on some Christmas red and green mini M&Ms, because those are cute on anything. And I was going to cover it with plastic wrap and then use the plastic wrap to kind of press down to make sure those Oreos got in there good, but I just ended up wrapping it around my hand and doing it that way. That way those Oreos don't fall off after it's set. Then you're going to cover this and let it chill in the refrigerator for at least 4 hours. Then you can go ahead and cut them into pieces. This turned out so good. They were delicious. This fudge turned out creamy and soft, but it wasn't too soft. And it was so easy to make, and that makes it even better. These turned out so cute, and the kids had a fit over them. And if you're not a fan of peppermint, you could do vanilla. I'm sure they would still be delicious. I really hope you enjoyed this video. You may also like these. Don't forget to subscribe down below for more easy recipes, and I will see you in the next one.